said that receiving mail is different from sending mail. Are we still using the JavaX mail stuff?
We're going to use JavaX mail stuff for processing the actual messages we receive and processing it, and that's a whole different. The mail API can be a little verbose, but that's not AppEngine. Where the AppEngine side, it's going to be a little different. Is first of all, we're going to use what's called an inbound service.
Okay.
And
that's something that Google provides?
It's what Google provides. And so this is kind of the first time we've seen this pattern, but it's going to show up again through the videos, or through the rest of this video. And it's the way this works, they're called webhooks. And basically what the AppEngine does is it takes any kind of message delivery mechanism, or a number of message delivery mechanisms, and turns them into HTTP requests to our servlet, or to a servlet.
Okay, so let me see if I get this. So in fact, can you maybe draw this out? You've done that before, and maybe I'm just a visual guy, but I want to see how this flow of information goes, because there are a lot of things happening here.
Sure, no problem. So what we have is, we've talked about this architecture a little bit. We have the Google front end, and that's not something we control. We can put some configuration information here for mappings and whatnot, and this is what's in our web.xml to basically map back to one or more app servers.
Okay.
Right, which are hosting our servlets, right? So these are our servlets here.
Sure.
And so we have our web.xml, which basically maps some URL here to an actual servlet that's being executed. Okay. So what we've done so far is we send an email, which basically you can think out here is just kind of this. I'm just going to draw it like that. There's basically our mail service that we used.
Okay.
And when we send an email from here, just went out, hit this cloudy mail service and did a mail distribution.
All right.
So now we're in a situation where we have incoming mail, or we want to be able to deal with incoming mail. And so what's going to happen is this mail, we need some way to get back into our application. And so the way that works is we're going to expose a URL. Well,
a different URL?
Yes, a different URL, but a well-defined. It's going to be, I think it's _AH mail.
Okay.
And then there's some additional information it can pass there. But basically, what's going to happen is that this mail service, when it receives an incoming mail for our application, it's going to package it up into an HTTP request for us. And then it is going to hit our mail server.
So then what does this? What turns the mail into an HTTP request?
The mail service, all part of the cloud.
Okay, so so somewhere out here, someone opens up Mail or Thunderbird or whatever, and sends a mail to here, the Google Cloud. So it's a Google address or attached to our app.
It's going to be attached to our app. Yep.
And then the cloud turns it into an HTTP request. Yep. And then it comes around to this second
to a well-defined URL.
Okay.
And then what we're going to do in our web.xml is say, okay, for this URL, I want you to hit this servlet here. Okay. And then we'll put all of our mail handling implementation inside of that servlet.
Okay. And then that can use all the rest of the code, just like any other Java servlet.
And so this pattern, it's a webhook pattern where basically something happened that Google wants to tell us about. It's going to map it into an HTTP request to a URL that we provide a servlet behind it to.
And that's called a webhook?
Webhook, yeah.
And what the hook is just the pattern, or this idea?
Pattern.
Okay.
The pattern, yep.
So some sort of request gets turned into an HTTP request, which we can then handle.
Something that it needs to tell our application about gets wrapped up into an HTTP request and hits that URL. And then if you're in Python, you're handling URLs one way. In our case, we're using Java. We're handling them in servlets. If you're using JRuby, you'd have your controller.
So you could have 3, 4, 5, 10 of these special, well-defined URLs, all handling different types of things coming in.
Yep. I don't think there's quite that many, but that's the idea. Yep.
Okay.
All right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add a servlet to handle this, and that line I started to draw there, the URL is basically, it's going to be _AH mail, and then right here can be any address to our application. So we're going to say comment at goodeaton at .appspot.com, but basically this part here gets tacked onto the URL there.
So do you have a different one of these for every email? Like if you had a feedback and a comment?
So the nice thing is you can, Or you can just say, you know what, I want to map that URL pattern, the AHMail star URL pattern, to this servlet, and then all of your mail will go to that servlet. Or if you wanted to, you could say, I want, here's my servlet that handles comments, here's my servlet that handles whatever. And
so you could have a traffic cop kind of model, or you could have individuals.
You got it.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so let's go ahead and build. We'll build that servlet, and we'll register it, and that gets us pretty much everything we need.
Oh, nice.
Okay. So let's go ahead and add a new servlet. Okay, and this is another one where it's a lot of Java Xmail stuff. I'm just going to paste it in here, but this will be our mail handler servlet. And again, I'm going to make just one for all of our potential email addresses, but we could do.
So this is the traffic cop kind of approach.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just cutting and pasting the mail servlet in here.
Okay. A lot of imports. And
yeah, there's a bunch of imports, and basically this is almost all mail handling stuff. And so let's walk through it. So basically, nothing surprising. It's a mail handler servlet. It has a post. This is going to come in as a post. We get our
and that's because we have this webhook.
Right.
So it comes in as a post request with all this information nicely set up for us to access.
Yep. It's going to the mail service cloud thing, Google side of the world, is going to package up that incoming mail message into our HTTP request and then do a post to
and how is the mail put in? As a request parameter? Or?
It's a request parameter. Yeah. Okay. Well, so I shouldn't say that. I believe it's a request parameter, but basically it's opaque to you, and I'll show you here in the code what we're talking about.
Okay.
So basically, what you do is we'll have the default instance for the session. This is kind of just standard mail stuff. And then we create a MIME message, and we pass in the input stream for that request.
Okay, so that hides, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I don't actually know how they're encoding it or what they're doing.
And because you used get default instance, you got access to the Google mail service in particular, so that's how it knows how to do that.
Yes.
Okay, because its implementation of MIME message can take that in and figure it out.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, yep. Now it's a good question. I don't know whether that is. I don't know if they have a custom MIME message support or if this is some kind of valid MIME message that just the standard MIME messaging can.
I believe there is a MIME message that takes in an input stream. So I don't think the method signature is unique.
Right.
But I imagine it's got code in there that knows how Google has stuffed it in, and so it's assuming, hey, you've put the message in some particular fashion.
It's possible.
Yeah, or they just shove it into an input stream.
Right. They could just see this as the post body.
I guess the big thing is it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter is the important
Very
thing.
Nice.
Right. The takeaway here is
scalability.
Is put this line of code in. And,
my control freakness is really struggling with the cloud, but I'm getting there. I'm buying in.
So we'll get back our MIME message, and then basically this part here, this is kind of my brute force through parsing this MIME message. But this is where you start to get into that verbosity in the Java mail stuff, right? So this is a MIME message, which means it can be a multi-part message, which means it can have an HTML body, it can have an XML body, it has a whole suite of attachments you can support, and Google has a list on their documentation of, you can do video attachments and everything else, binary attachments, document attachments, etc. And you would, depending on your application, implement this differently to look for the parts you're interested in, or if you have the person submitting a form back to you, then you need this you need to find this type of attachment. So we don't care about that. For all we want is the text comment. But this is where this code would.
So we're making some assumptions here for the sake of this not being a 14-hour session on Java Mail.
We have a big lecture on Java Mail, but it really doesn't help on what we're getting with here. So. We're going to get the multi-part out. We're going to get the content from that message. We grab the subject out. Basically, we're just going to log some information here saying we got an email for some restaurant, and what we'll do is we'll put the restaurant ID in the subject. Okay. And then the content here, we're going to assume it's the first body part. And that's kind of where we're cheating here, is that really you would, depending on what you were expecting.
Maybe some error checking or parsing and all kinds of...
And you might care about 5 different parts of the message versus we only care about the first one, things like that. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're actually just going to throw this back over the wall to our comment maker. All right. So we know how the comment maker works. We know that it wants 2 parameters. We have our restaurant ID and the actual comment, right? And so what we're going to do is basically put together a dispatcher to throw it back to our comment maker, given the restaurant ID out of the message subject, and the comment, which we're getting out of that first body part.
So I'm seeing 2 things here. One is that we're assuming a very specific format coming in, and I guess we could add some error checking if it wasn't that to email them back or whatever. And then also we're not, even though we're kind of taking the traffic cop approach, one servlet we're not doing all the case switching where if it's this. But I guess you could check the address they'd send it to, and if it was to comment, do this. If it was to okay,
you get a whole suite of information about what email address it was intended for and things like that. And you could either switch it here, like you said, or you can push it up at the servlet level and have it just go to different servlets.
And that'd be a good exercise, I imagine, for folks that are trying to get their head around this. Is maybe building a way to add restaurants, maybe building a way to get the latest just to do all these kinds of things through email. And we'd love to see that. You can always tweet that at O'Reilly Video, and we'd love to put it up. But
and a real reasonable way, something that would be neat to see added, is we could have a link on a mail to link on, just like we have an add comment on a restaurant. You could have a mail to link where basically it pre-formats that subject to however we want it. And then the user could type in you need to take this down. This restaurant really is a shady place or something, and you could add all those capabilities to the views.
So this is it.
Almost it. Okay, so we've added our servlet and we're good there.
And because we already have a comment maker, there's no real work on that side.
So there's a little bit. We need to do one quick thing, and that's basically we added the assumption. Oh, not on that one. On this one, we added the assumption that we know who the user is. When we send that email.
Comment submitter, right?
Right. And so basically, we're going to need to deal with the fact that we may not know it because it's coming from an email.
Okay. Because it wants a user object, not just a single line. Because we have the from address of the email.
We have the from address from the email. We don't have a user object, and we're actually trying to get it from the user service. And so basically,
that's going to be a problem.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're just going to drop. If we don't have a user, we're just going to drop that part of the email that we would send.
I see.
And so let's just change this a little bit. A new comment was added. I'm going to move this by. Down here, builder.append by.
Right, and then that all goes within the kind of if block.
Yep. And then we'll do if comment submitter does not equal null.
I see.
Right.
Then you can add that piece.
Yep. Then we'll do this and that.
Otherwise
it's going to fall right through to a new comment was added to, and we'll do it that way. Okay, so
easy enough.
We're going to have an extra space there, so let's fix that.
Okay.
And so that way we can handle not.
So that's more that defensive coding where you're just making sure now you've got multiple input paths to this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then some sort of mapping in WebXML, you said?
Right. And so two more places we need to edit. The first one is the AppEngine itself, or the AppEngine WebXML. And what we need to do is turn on, this is our first inbound service. Inbound services, and there's we're going to talk about a couple more in a second. Service, and this is mail. Okay, that's easy enough.
And is inbound service what kind of maps to these various webhooks?
The inbound service basically enables, it tells the AppEngine allow mail delivery for mail, and then when we get to Xmpp, we're going to turn on allow Xmpp information as well.
Okay.
All right.
Simple enough.
And then lastly, we'll go to our web.
And this is now mapping that particular URL pattern?
Exactly. Yep.
And that URL pattern is defined by Google, so that _AH/mail, I think it was?
Yep.
Okay.
And so let's go ahead. I'm just looking for one we can copy. This one
always start with something that works, right?
And we'll just copy that one, and this is going to be our mail handler servlet.
Easy enough.
And of course I copied one that does not use our full package. All right, so
we all want to watch you sweat under these. See how well you can type.
And this is our mail handler servlet.
Right.
And
then we just have to map that to
and then
that URL pattern.
And you'll see this URL also this pattern shows up as well. Mail, and we're just going to send all of our mail there.
Because it's the traffic cop mentality.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we can put a security constraint around this as well. It will be delivered using an administrative role, so we can actually go ahead and block this, that people can't hit our our URL just poking at that servlet kind of a thing.
Which would give us yet another entry path that we don't want.
Yep.
Okay.
So let's block this, and it's that pattern.
And so now, locally, is this going to be the same thing? Where will this work locally? Because locally before, when it was sending out email, it didn't actually send out email, it just logged.
Right.
But receiving mail,
kind of.
I guess you'd have to have your own SMTP.
Well, the console lets us fake it.
Okay.
Okay. And
Very
so I believe we should have everything we need. I'm going to go, since we've added some classes and whatnot, I'm going to actually kill this off and start it up again.
Okay.
Just to make sure we don't have to, oops, yeah, okay, we should be good. All right.
All right.
And we'll go to our local version. So there shouldn't be any change here. We'll refresh this, but this should look exactly the same. But what I want to grab is I want an ID for a restaurant. So we know
because that has to be in the subject field.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to look at this add comment. You can see the restaurant ID down the bottom there is 128.
See.
So
okay.
we'll just seal that, and that's where we'd want to add a link here or something. But,
okay.
So we'll go over to our development console and we'll say inbound mail.
Oh, I see.
So you get this little mail form.
I see.
So it doesn't actually deliver the mail from an SFTP
right.
perspective.
Most people's servers or development machines probably don't have an incoming mail server open if they're good developers. If you have that, turn it off.
And we could fake all this. So from happy guy at food.com.
Your sample data is in a class of its own. I'm not sure it's a good class to be in, but it is a class of its own.
So we'll do, this is the actual URL we'll need, appspot.com.
Okay.
And actually, we're going to do
Goodeatin-async.
That's the name of our app there. That's our app ID.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm actually, let's do it this way. Comment at there's basically. Oops, that's not what we wanted to copy. There's two of them you can use, or there's a this we had mentioned this when we put that URL path in, right? So you can do it this way, which is comment at goodeatinasync.appspot.mail.com. We can do it that way. Or you can just have the application ID at appspotmail.com.
Okay, but it's always appspotmail.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so if you do it this way, basically that gives you the ability to do
the traffic cop kind of approach.
Well, yeah, the traffic cop approach or separate URLs. What it will do is it will deliver this to the /comment.
I'm with you.
Okay. Otherwise, they all just go into the default.
I see.
Okay, so no CCs, we don't care.
And what, 55, I believe?
I thought it was 128, but let's take a look. 128.
All right.
Okay, so
that's what I thought.
Let's just put that body there.
I was doing a quick 16-bit conversion and some shifting, and
really
it's 55.
All right, so subject is 128. This was an emailed comment. We'll hit send. We get the message that it was sent.
Okay. And now you're saying the console.
Here, right. So then over here we should get this message. Okay, so here's our output, right?
Okay.
So this is from and our two. Let's see. This should be our current one, right?
Well, so I think what happened is actually triggered a mail sending as well, right? Because
it should have triggered a mail sending.
A comment.
Yep.
So we sent in a mail, added a new comment, and then this is the mail that got sent back out that there was a new comment on your submission, right?
Yep.
Because we were started before all this.
Yep. That's so here. What I was looking for was
there. It is.
Got email. That's the one I was trying to find. Yep. So we got the email for 128 with a comment. This was an emailed comment.
Okay.
So that means the email came in, it was delivered to our servlet. Our servlet was able to parse it. And then this mail send was triggered from us throwing it over the wall to our new comment.
Okay. So now we're ready to push to the cloud again?
To the cloud, and now we can use real email addresses, really write an email, and really get this to work.
Now I know that, the pattern that you're saying is going to repeat is the idea of this webhook piece, right?
Yes.
Is that some sort of request comes in, gets turned into an HTTP request.
Right.
And that's usually by one of Google's services, right? So the mail comes into Google's mail service because it's got a Google-related address.
Right.
And I assume that's going to be the same when we do like Xmpp, is it's going to come into a Google-related account.
Yep. The whole point of this is that from our implementation perspective, we're getting an HTTP request. That's all we need to care about.
Okay.
The transport mechanism of how it got there, I don't want to say we don't care. I mean, we might care in terms of how we respond.
Right.
But it's going to come to us as an HTTP request.
So is this all considered, all these services, is this part of the Google Cloud? Is that the way you talk about it? So the Google Cloud.
The AppEngine. The Google App Engine.
Right.
Yeah.
But the services are all considered part of AppEngine?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would consider those part of AppEngine.
So AppEngine now is not only sitting kind of behind, if you will, processing. It's in some ways it's sitting in front because it's receiving information and converting it to a way that we can handle easily.
Yep.
Okay.
So the other really nice thing about this webhooks approach is not only do we not care about the transport that got it there, but we have this whole built-in scalability, right? It's just more servlets that can spin up on any app engine. So if we were getting 10,000 emails,
it wouldn't be a big deal.
Or we were getting one email, right? Don't care.
Right. Maybe cost associated with it.
Absolutely, but the scalability that we've been building into our application and how we handle responses.
Well, we haven't built it in. We've just used Google Engine, right?
The scalability we're leveraging, right? The scalability we're leveraging applies here too. And so you have this scalability, you have this kind of statelessness of the servlets as they're coming up wherever we need them to come up. And if our mail load goes down, everybody gets done complaining, complimenting this awesome restaurant.
Talking about how great Chewy's is.
Right, yep. Then it just slowly collapses down, our cost reduces and everything else.
All right. So now it's up,
so
and
we're
I
up
guess
there.
we could get 10,000 emails. But
so now we should be able to handle 10,000 emails. Yep. So I'm going to copy this email address just so we can. You have to watch me try to type that in again. And we push it as the same version, so we don't actually need to change that. And let's go ahead and let's just take a look at our. Let's see, we should be able to flip back here and see the actual application. So I'm doing this just to kind of warm it on the app.
Right.
So this will take a second for it to spin up. And while that's spinning up, this is...
Now you're on a different browser again.
Right, different browser. I'm logged into Gmail, right? Okay. And we should be able to compose an email here.
Okay.
And this is going to be to comment at goodeatonasync@appspotmail.com.
Now we need to get a new ID, right? Because we're using the data on the server, which is different.
Yep. And so 6001 is
okay.
the ID. So we're going to do the same thing, just mouse over the
add comment
6001.
See it down at the bottom, okay.
Right, so 6001. And this place was amazing. I had to write an email from my iPhone. Okay, so.
Very nice.
All right.
Although I imagine Eric Schmidt would probably prefer that's an Android phone, but we're going to.
From my Droid.
Hey, tell it like it is, man.
How's that?
I'm sure people right now are thrilled. There's one conversion, only 10 million more.
So there we go. Okay, so we hit send. We come up here. We should be able to look at our logs.
Okay, so it shows up in the log.
Yep. And let's see, that's our old one, the send. Remember, we're doing the info level here, so we'll take a look at our info level.
Oh, there's the URL.
Right, got an email for Restaurant 6000 with content, this place is amazing. I had to write an email from Android.
And so now we should be able to reload the front page of Good Eatin'.
Yep. So we'll
we should see that.
And we should see our comment added. There it is.
All right.
Okay, and then we should be able to come down there.
Oh, right, because you're also the restaurant submitter.
It's waiting for us. There's our email.
Very nice.
All right.
Very nice. And so you're saying, I know we're doing Xmpp and task queues. I assume that Xmpp is going to be very similar with just some wrinkles for that service?
Absolutely, right. And so I'm smiling here not because this worked, but because I just think...
You're smiling a little because it worked.
A little bit because it worked.
Okay.
But I just think it's really amazing with how little code. I mean, what have we spent? We've been talking about this for about 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of mail, JavaX.mail, but you could get that in any book in the world.
You're able to email this application and have it email responses back to you that's running on this infrastructure you didn't build.
Right.
And that scales to millions of users.
Yeah, there's no bat book out on the table. There's no send mail.
Yep.
As one who's spent time there, that's pretty appealing.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All right, so let's talk about XMPP.
All right.